Hello, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ebony, and this is his.
And hers, Warhammer 40k.
Yay!
Yay! We're back after a little bit of a break. We have done some traveling. We went to Korea. We celebrated Halloween.
Yeah.
So this one, we finished it a couple weeks ago and are well into our next book, but we haven't gotten around to doing a review of it. And that review is Deathworlder by Victoria Hayward. How did we feel about this one?
I mean, I really enjoyed it, actually. Yeah, this is the only thing by Victoria Hayward I've read. This is
I believe it's her first 40k novel.
This is the most of soldiers from these two worlds, I think, that I have read. Maybe not Cadians.
Not true at all.
But I enjoyed it. I liked everything about it.
So to describe Deathworlder real quick, we have a mismatched group of guardsmen engaging in small squad mission on an enemy-controlled world to retrieve something that can save the Imperium. They're racing against time before the world is consumed. But enough about Ashes of Cadia. Let's talk about Deathworlder.
Yeah, it's pretty much... Yeah,
it's pretty much the same plot.
Yeah, but I was going to say with more interesting characters, but that's not true. I really enjoyed Ashes of Cadia.
Ashes of Cadia. I gave a 10 to Ashes of Cadia.
Yeah.
So it's tough to compare against.
Yeah.
Because on a character level, I think both are doing a great job.
There's not a character in this book that I didn't enjoy reading.
There's also not that many characters. Like it's pretty small scale.
I
but
think the planet would disagree.
Fair. Okay.
The stakes are big. The scale is small. Yeah.
Right. So what we have here is a world, Lazuli, famous for its gemstones, huge populations, big mining world, possibly a former Eldar maiden world, given it has like 1,000 times more gemstones in its crust than a normal planet.
Yeah, it feels like it's been terraformed to produce gemstones. Like there's like diamonds and rubies and sapphires all over, just like growing out of the ground.
It's like possible like soul stone connection. That's just my own idea.
It's beautiful though. Sounds beautiful.
And then the Tyranids come.
Less beautiful.
Yeah. This is a world that is deep into its loss with the Tyranids already.
Yeah, they're losing hard.
It's often. I recently saw a comment that said, if Tyranids are in the story, they're losing. And this is not the case.
Yeah, the Tyranids are winning.
Yeah. This is definitely a book about what can we do to just sort of save whatever we can.
Yeah, or like slow a hive fleet at best for this system.
Yeah.
And sort of in that vein, the soldiery generally, like the upper soldiery, are aware that they're losing, that they've basically lost. You get to see a lot of this planet being terraformed by the Tyranids, which I hadn't seen before. It
hasn't been written before.
Oh, good. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yes.
Like a lot about what's happening environmentally to change this planet to a planet that Tyranids can thrive on. But they know that they've lost, and so there's this sort of last-ditch effort to recover something that is potentially important to the Imperium.
Right.
A potential weapon.
Yep. And our little band of heroes that we have on this quest, starting with, I'd say, our leader. We have two main regiments that we're dealing with, and they are the most famous ones, Cadians and Catachans.
Yeah.
Everyone should know them already. Cadians are the most numerous, for the most part. From Cadia, of course. Rest in peace. And Catachans are from Catachan.
Yeah.
Outside of Fenris, the most famous of death worlds.
Correct.
Known for its Rambo-esque soldiers.
That's the vibe.
Yeah. And so our leader is actually a woman Catachan, Major Wolf Khan, who really right from the start just shows great leadership qualities, I felt.
Yeah, she's cool.
We get an opening scene where she's brought into like a tribunal against one of the Cadian regiments. One of her soldiers is being an ass, essentially. And I'm trying to remember, what was the specific
I don't remember what
issue?
she did, but I think it ended with saving someone's life. It was like not following an order that saved a life or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
but was also just kind of being an asshole about it to her bosses.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that trooper was Trooper Adair.
Yeah.
Who is just, she is a loudmouth.
Yeah.
She is a braggart. She just talks about how great she is and how great Catachan is.
She's my favorite character.
She's quite a character.
She's also the comic relief of our band, for sure.
Yeah.
It's great. She's my favorite character.
She's a handful.
She's just like a giant, large Rambo-like lady who punches things and yells a lot.
Was she the flamethrower wielder? I'm trying to remember what she
I don't know if she has a flamethrower, but I wouldn't be surprised if she had a flamethrower.
Yeah.
She's great.
So we have Major Khan.
Yeah.
We've got Trooper Adair.
Yeah.
Who those are sort of the first characters that we're introduced to on the Catachan force.
Khan's lieutenant, is it Haruto?
Sergeant Haruto. Thank you. Haruto is Khan's second in command. And he starts off as you kind of expect a Sergeant-esque character to be.
Yeah, kind
of like a serious, capable character. But he's got a very interesting fascination with technology and learning. And it was not an angle I was expecting.
Yeah, it's a surprise for a soldier character.
Yeah. He's very focused on like intelligence gathering and just sort of the broader collection of knowledge.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, which pairs him well with Tech Adept Nephali Wraith. So what we're trying to get, the little mission that our force is tasked with, is to acquire an archaeological device that Adept Wraith's mentor,
Mago Stull,
thank you, uncovered almost on the other side of the continent, I want to say.
And the whole world is at war, so he alerted the Imperium that he has this device. He's uncovered it and supposedly is the last holdout at that place. Right? So also potentially he's alive and they could save him, but they're not unclear about that.
Right.
Yeah, but the device is important. And Nephali is in charge of that part of the mission, recovering this device that the whispers could be a super powerful anti-Tyranid weapon that they could use to turn the tide of the war. Khan is not so convinced based on the current tides of the war, but they're going to go and do it. But going to do it means a lot of sacrifice on the soldiery side, even before they are fully set out.
Now, one of the problems, aside from all of the Tyranids in the way, is they don't actually know where the device is. They have like a vague sense, but they don't really know how to get there, because the Catachan regiments weren't based out of there, but the Cadian regiments were.
Yeah.
And they are assigned Lieutenant Anditz, who, after a very serious Tyranid assault, is left as the only Cadian alive of his regiment.
Yes.
If I recall.
And he's obviously traumatized by that. So
yeah.
It's an ongoing
like this
trauma.
It's a rough time with him.
Yeah.
But he's played very much like the straight man to Trooper Adair when it comes to the lighter elements of the story.
Yeah, and they built a great friendship, the two of them. There's a great line, I think, about how when they're bonding together where Adair is like, well, Catachans are this way and Cadians are this way and Mordians think they're better than both of us.
Yep.
And it's great. There's just is a lot of great camaraderie that they build a relationship that's really nice to watch throughout the course of the book.
Yeah, the characterization is quite solid.
Yeah.
Lastly, we have Ghost, sort of a quieter, almost extra character, extra Catachan,
he says words sometimes.
Sometimes. He's like a recon and sniper guy.
Yeah.
And honestly, when he was introduced, my thought was, this is a body that is going to die at some point.
Yeah,
I didn't really have any stronger connection to him than that.
Yeah, we won't give you lots of spoilers, but I don't know, he grew on me, and I didn't. In the beginning, there's a lot of his job is reconnaissance. There's a lot of sending him off to do a thing, and then you don't hear about him for a while. But for me, he's a constant source of competency porn. It's like, we're gonna send him off to do this hard thing. It might not work, and then they're just like, oh, it worked, because it always works when he does it.
He reminded me a little bit of the Tanith.
Yes.
I got a lot of Tanith feel from him.
Yeah, I liked his character.
Yeah. The development of Catachan culture was really fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, going into this, I really didn't know a huge amount about Catachan, like vague elements of it, but I feel the author introduced a lot of interesting elements related to the history of Catachan. Like, Catachan was not colonized on purpose. Like, its settlers just kind of ended up there by accident
and didn't die.
Right, and had to survive.
Yeah.
And so often there's this thought of what is his name? Sly Marbo, the most famous Catachan, known for screaming a lot, as this solo hero.
Yeah.
But really, the Catachan are very much focused on
teamwork.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
You know, because no one actually survives alone on Catachan.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Also, there's Catachan poetry.
No one knew that.
Yeah. No one knew that.
It's apparently good.
Yeah, that's what they say. What else? They start off with a fairly large column of troops.
Yeah, it's sort of the rest of this sort of
the Catachan regiment.
Yeah, this fortress area. There's like a general over them. And the general's aware of this mission, and basically they are setting up a diversion. Like they're going to use the majority of troops to face this oncoming Tyranid horde. That's going to be a diversion for this column led by Khan to go off and do this thing, and that goes relatively smoothly, as smoothly as one would expect when they are overwhelmed by Tyranids. Like obviously tons of those soldiers die. I think the general succumbs in that scene, right? Like she's but you get the best character from that group, the Baneblade, Ophelia's fist. Okay.
You're
really into the Baneblade.
Look, it's not often that you actually get a super heavy tank in these books. That is part of the story.
You enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was great. me and Wraith enjoyed the Baneblade a lot.
She really did enjoy it.
She was into it. She's like, it's so cool.
Yeah, she did love it.
That was a fun scene. What else have we got? There's Lamia.
Yeah, that happens. Lamia? I think that kind of happens after the split. So the split happens. They're on their own. They make the split successfully, and now they're on this mission. And Anditz, the Cadian, is sort of in the lead because how he lost his regiment was further out. So in theory, he can get them where they're trying to go. And so they're in motion in the lead, and they come across a band of gene stealers.
Well, so the Cadians, as most people know, a lot of Tyranid invasions start with a gene stealer cult first being established, and this world was no different. Lazuli had a gene stealer cult that was developed. It spread through the higher high society.
Class,
and then when the Tyranids came, it was not as passive as you often hear.
They appeared
cults.
To not enjoy the actual arrival of the Tyranids.
No, so the cult was interesting because they still view gene stealers as like the true angels of the Emperor, like literally of our God Emperor.
Yeah.
But the Tyranids as something totally different.
Yeah.
That they are not, of the Emperor. They are usurpers almost.
Yeah.
They are wrong.
Yeah, so there's kind of like a sort of civil war amongst the Tyranid gene stealer situation on Lazuli.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you have they find this cultist who, to use tabletop terminology, was the Clamavis of the gene stealer
That's
cult.
a terrible name.
Yeah. Oh, God, some of the unit names get so awful.
Clamavis is terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is basically the loudspeaker, the proselytizer of the cult.
Yeah.
She was a TV...
like a radio personality or something.
Yeah.
Like she'd been doing these broadcasts that were going all over Lazuli, so the soldiers are aware of it too. So like when they find her, they're like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kind of like are trying to use her to basically make their way through the remains of the cult.
Yeah, which includes like going through bits of forest and jungle, but also through the city, which is where she would have been from. So and like obviously she speaks gene stealer occultist, and so they're trying to use her as sort of a pass key, and she hates them and they hate her, and it's really, that part's pretty.
Honestly, while I appreciate the perspective that she gave as the cult was kind of like losing to the Hive fleet, like that was interesting from a like storytelling perspective. I don't feel she added a lot to the plot.
No, not really.
You know, that
I think she's there as a plot device to get them through some things, which you could have written your way around.
I feel like she didn't that it didn't happen.
I think she gets them across a bridge at one point.
No, she doesn't.
No? Okay. Well, that was the goal, for her to get them across the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't work, I guess.
So
yeah, she's not that great.
Not that great. However, there are some other scenes that are phenomenal, and they all have to do with the Tyranids.
Yeah.
I think there's one sort of key element to this book that I always want more of in Tyranid stories, and they almost never do this. It does happen a lot in the codexes, but people aren't reading the codexes a lot, which is don't reference them by unit names. You they're not scary if you're just calling this one a Hormigaunt and this one a Termagant.
Because no one knows what that
and this
means.
one a Hive Guard. Well, no, we know exactly what those mean. That is the problem. It's not scary.
Yeah, I thought this was quite scary, actually.
Yes, because there is no unit names in this whole book, with the exception of a Gene Stealer.
Yeah.
But I don't really count
There was like a lot of like tentacle porn, like scary Cthulhu tentacles
like
were happening.
If I really thought about it, there were a couple that I could have picked out, but they're never named.
Yeah.
Like the characters don't know what they are. Like these are all just horrific nightmares.
Yeah. It was great.
It's great horrific nightmares. And then there are the underwater Tyranids,
which I'd never heard of before, and I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that scene.
It's so good.
Yeah, there's
a
scene where they have to swim into a flooded church to retrieve something.
Fun fact: most Catachans can't swim because Catachan has almost no like large bodies of water on it.
Fair. Who's swimming? There's no water. Yeah, they have to, like Anditz does it because he's a Cadian and can swim. Has to swim to the bottom of this flooded
sunken
church.
cathedral.
And at the bottom there are Tyranids in the water doing weird things with bodies, and it's terrifying and great. It was perfect.
Which I did eventually find, like, that is a unit.
Okay.
That is a Tyranid unit.
Sure.
The unit model is as horrifying as that description.
Ooh. Fun fact, I'm painting Tyranids.
That is true.
Yeah, for fun.
She's got a squad of Termagants right now that she's working on.
So the Tyranids are great. Like the little bits of horror elements that they add to the story are great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
What else? There's a vague, almost non-existent romance plot in this.
I thought you were going to say there's a romance plot, and I was like, that's a stretch. Okay, vague, almost non-existent is correct.
And I feel like we could have had a little more of that.
You think you could have been a little bit more intense?
I liked it.
Okay.
I think it wasn't... It's less than hinted at. It's just the essence of it.
It's the essence of romance. I guess I could wind that back a little bit. Before Anditz goes on his swimming lesson, they come to a point in their mission where they can go one of two ways.
No, that happens before.
Is this before the swimming?
The swim is before that.
This is post-swimming.
Yes.
Post-swimming, then unrewind. Yeah. They have a point where they can go one of two ways, and they say, if we do this thing, it might get us to this place faster. And Khan is like, if we do this thing...
It's the problem is, that way is the opposite direction
of the goal.
Yeah.
And Wraith, the Mechanicus representative, her goal is to get to that machine. And the almost non-existent romance is between Anditz, the Cadian, and Wraith, right? Is it Anditz?
Harudo.
It's Harudo, that's right. Sorry. The second in command, Harudo and Wraith. And in a surprising turn of events, I was shocked because it's not his character at all. Harudo is like, I agree with Wraith. I'm going to go with her.
Well, no, because I actually think that was built up.
You think? I did not think that he would do that.
His character was always very knowledge focused. He was always thinking about this is getting this information is the most important thing.
But not to the point that one would disobey an order. I just didn't expect him to disobey any orders.
But I don't think he disobeyed for the romance. I think he disobeyed because he felt that was the better option.
Either way, I don't think he would have disobeyed orders.
Catachans are different. Like Catachan
So
disobey orders.
I did appreciate that glimpse
Yeah.
into that, like you can, you are the leader because you're the best.
Yeah.
Like I get that, but it just seemed contrary to his personality the
No,
whole first half of the book.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
You know, and Khan made mention of that. Like she expects Haruto to disobey orders when he feels his is better.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree with his disagree. I disagree with the disagree.
That's because
an agree.
That's because you don't go against orders.
I could.
You don't, though.
I
don't.
might.
It takes like an order being wrong like 3 times before you'll go against it. You'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, so he goes off with her to find this thing.
And a romance develops.
Loose. It's
Loosely.
very loose
No.
romance.
The characters are definitely have feelings for each other. Like that is what happened. We just don't really get to see it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was something that maybe a little bit more, like if you wanted to introduce this, and I did like that, could have had a little more.
I think you're supposed to intuit the romance.
Yeah.
You're supposed to catch the vibes.
Yep.
And it's fine, but I would not have done that. I think he made the wrong choice, but whatever.
That's fair. What else have we got in this book?
And so Anditz is with Khan and the rest of the Catachan.
Yeah, with Khan, Ghost,
Adair.
Yeah.
But in a surprising turn of events, because Khan's a great leader, Haruto and Wraith run off to do whatever they're doing, and you think she's just going to let them go and be mad at them, but she sends Ghost after them. That's one of those times where she sends Ghost off, and you're like, I guess we don't care about Ghost, and then he saves someone's life, and is amazing because he saves their lives. Yeah. So then they do that, and now they're off on 2 missions, but they do come back together.
We don't need to.
We're not going to give you lots of spoilers. Yeah, they separate and they come back together. Much Tyranid fighting on both sides is happening. Lots of very interesting scenes about the terraforming and what's happening to the planet.
The terraforming is so good, and I would love to just see
more of that.
like more different kinds of Tyranid terraforming, like on other planets.
Yeah, it was great. And so then eventually everyone's back together and we make it to this device.
And we're not going to say what happens.
We're not going to say what happens when we get to the device because that would give you lots of spoilers. And this is, again, one of those books where we think you reading that ending is more fun than us talking about it.
I think just in general, we're trying to avoid like big spoiler discussions unless there is a lot, like unless they're like real impactful.
Yeah, but we will agree that this story is great. The twists and spoilers that we're avoiding are impactful.
Are solid.
And solid, yeah. I don't know. Are we ready to give scores?
I think so.
You have thoughts?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Oh, that's much lower than Ashes of Cadia.
I think because, well, part of it is because I read the second.
Okay.
Like, it is tough to do the comparison. And I think on an individual character level, I felt more for the Ashes of Cadia team.
I don't remember what I scored Ashes of Cadia.
Okay. I think you gave it a 9.
Okay.
But I did enjoy this cast. You know, I thought this team, with the exception of Lamia, was really, and Ghost, were really interesting all around.
Okay. If it is indeed true that I gave Ashes of Cadia a 9.
I can't fully remember that, but like, sure.
I would give this a 9.5.
Really?
Yeah. So while I loved Ashes of Cadia, on the whole scale, in the big picture, I don't think that story is as interesting as this story.
Okay.
I would say they are on equal footing for how much I love those characters, how entertaining it was. But I would say this just nudges above it in the complexity of the story, both the Tyranid part, the terraforming of the world, this mission that our characters on. There's more interest. And I would say that it might just nudge it a couple points for me on actual characters as well. So I would give it half a point higher than Ashes of Cadia. I really liked this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to more Victoria Hayward in the future.
It was great.
I think she did Tyranids just excellently.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal debut for a novel.
Yeah. And it's tough to do good Tyranids. Before this book I had read, there was like a 5 short story Tyranid based like little anthology, and
Terrible.
not terrible.
Just
there,
not
there
good.
were some good, but I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired of the same endless chittering swarm description
Yeah.
with the scythe and claws that you see everywhere.
Yeah, this was very good.
This was different.
Yeah.
So that's the big benefit of this book, I would say, is the Tyranid development, the Catachan development. Top tier.
Yeah. High marks. What's next on our list?
So our next book,
We've got many books in the work.
That is true. So we're still listening to Dawn of Fire Book 8. Hand of Abaddon.
Yeah.
Which we're making our way through.
Yeah.
And we are also reading
Lazarus Enmity's Edge. I'm reading.
Lazarus Enmity's Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both starting that. Which was one that I just kind of had on the back burner for a while.
I like it. I'm enjoying it.
And I heard it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we've got
Yeah,
for
that's
today.
it. We'll be back with whatever we read next.
Yep, whichever one's finished next.
Thanks.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, subscribe.